Hey, good afternoon. Welcome to Dynamic Alignment Bodywork, and welcome back. Today's tip, I want to talk about the forearm, extensors and flexors, and getting a good balance there. A lot of us, as you might imagine, on almost every occasion, we tend to overdevelop and overuse our flexors. So that's everything that this is flexion of the wrist, flexion of the fingers. Flexion as a whole is like going into fetal position. So at the forearm, hand, fingers, we do a lot of this, less this, right? We do a lot of this. Typing, writing, any kind of picking stuff up and putting it down, there's a lot of flexion and closing involved. Anything on the opposite of that, the extensors, this is going to be the main muscle and tissue group that lifts my wrist up and opens up my hand. So really in a motion of lifting and putting something down, I'm flexing in the way that I'm squeezing. These actually come into play largely as stabilizers. And then some part of picking up, there I go, I'm using my extensors. That said, and still a lot of us have the problem of having overdeveloped, tight, sticky forearm flexors and relatively stronger than the relatively weak extensor group. So there are a lot of sort of nuances and intricacies of this that can be helpful to look into. And as a general rule, using these forearm extensors can really help wake that area up and can sometimes be a pretty quick and very noticeable cure for something like carpal tunnel if your wrist is hurting, if the inside of your elbow or the outside of your elbow, golfers or tennis elbow, is hurting, any kind of finger pain, stickiness, numb hands, that kind of thing that can definitely stem up from the shoulder too in a very real way. But today let's use Occam's razor and try the simplest thing of the forearm. There are different devices on the market, like this is a hairband, but they sort of act like a hairband if you wrap it around your finger like a bird beak. And this is, I'm training my fingers and wrist into extension, and getting these muscles. So it's that kind of thing. If you have a rubber band or a hairband, you can play with that slow, controlled movement, pushing out and then slowly dropping in, push out. You'll know it's working because these muscles will start working. And pretty quickly for a lot of us, I'll notice a burn. So I can play with movements like that, maybe a few sets of 10 to 30 for a couple times a day. And another one of my favorites that doesn't take any equipment and you can do any time is and I got this from a personal trainer that I will link to her at the bottom of this video because I think this is a really fantastic exercise. Just holding mid-sternum, mid-chest, and I want to open up my hand as much as possible, which sounds really simple, and it is really simple. But a lot of us will get extension at the wrist, but then in one or more fingers and one or more of these digits, if you look and you want to use your visual, I have a hard time opening. So for me, it might be hard to sort of see the nuances, but this finger doesn't want to open up all the way. So if I really focus and concentrate on trying to push open each one of those joints, almost instantly, I get this kind of fiery burning up here, which is good. It'll feel weird, it'll feel shaky. And then holding that position, breathing out, I'm going to push this knife edge forward, and then so I'm extending this kind of motion from my hand and really focusing on keeping all of the joints open. Give it a try. It's, again, sounds and is pretty simple, but that on each side, and it might take you 20 seconds to do this whole run, or maybe even longer. Having a nice, solid stance, reaching up here, and then breathing nice and solid. I'm really focusing on open up the hand like this, and at the end maybe do that once on each side a couple times a day. Can be 1 to 2 minutes or less, and I know in me helps really wake this area up and start bringing a better balance into my forearms, which can help with those conditions we talked about earlier. Hope this helps. Welcome back to Dynamic Alignment Bodywork, and I'll see you soon. Ciao.